Well, hello everyone. I think this is live. I hope it is live. I've got so much shit going on. I hope I'm looking at the right place and doesn't look like a bird. Of course, I'm always scrambling to get ready. I should never schedule lives because I'm never ready on time, or I should schedule them for Libertarian Standard Time, which is plus or minus 15 minutes. Anyway, we should have an interesting discussion, but it will only be a discussion if there's actually comments. And I am not yet positive I will see comments. So if you are on my personal page, post a comment because I would like to see if I see it. If not, I still have a problem with this stupid program. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get my iPad out here. It's right around the corner. And have that out so I can see if anyone's actually commenting and I'm not seeing it. Where the hell did I put it? I'll be right back. I'm coming. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I thought my iPad was right around the corner. It was actually in the other room. Hey, Frank. Okay, you saved me the trouble. I don't need to go get my iPad. So the comments are showing up. Great. I'm sorry I keep asking you guys to be my guinea pig in this program, but it's not the program's fault. It's me. I haven't yet figured it out yet, though I do think there is some programming glitches as well. Okay. Let me get organized here because, as usual, I'm multitasking. This will be another Get Ready With Me video where I'm doing some kind of cosmetic operation, not literally an operation, while we talk. And today it will be Lashify. I know you men are also interested in all the beauty rituals of women. What Lashify is a home eyelash extension kit, which is probably pretty popular now during Pandemicville. And what it comprises is, and we'll get to talking politics in a minute. You gotta give me my indulgence here to show you. And there will be probably some ladies who are interested, or guys, no judgment. So you get this control kit. And it comprises, so this little wand thing that you use to put on the eyelashes. Let me get the little, so it's little pinchers. Believe it or not, let me tell you something, capitalism, man. Okay, this is sturdy and it's a great invention. You wanna know how much this wand is? Guess. Guess. Fina, guess how much this wand is. You will not guess unless you have a Lashify system. This frickin' wand is like 80 bucks. I shit you not. Okay. And then you've got some of your glues and the like, you know, that kind of crap. So we've got our glass, which makes things all nice and smooth. We got our wax, which lays things down. Now, I'm not going to be putting on the pink lashes today. Actually, let me show you the whole kit. $20, you guess. That's what I would have guessed, and I would have thought $20 would have been too damn much. $80. But it works really well, okay? But, yeah. So, here's what else you need for Lashify. So, I'm going to show you guys the rest of the kit. So, you get these. They're called gossamers. So it's these little packages that have different kinds of lashes on them. And you pull them out of these packages. And on the back, like, it has a size. So you see B14, that's bold 14 millimeters. So you have all these different, whoops, get it here in front of the camera. All these different sizes of lashes. And great, I didn't turn my notifications off, so you guys get to see all my parlor notifications. They also come in different colors, but we're not doing the colors today, like pink. So those are pretty cool. Now, you're only supposed to use these once, and they'll maybe last 4 days on you, allegedly. Doesn't for me, but allegedly. Let me tell you what happens when those puppies come off. I throw them in some alcohol, and I clean them, and I use them again, my cheap ass. So that's what I've got here. Some that I was able to reuse. I cleaned them, and that's what I'm reusing today. So we'll need our wand, our glues. Just getting set up, patience. So here's the glue. It's called Bondage. Ooh, sounds kinky. So our Bondage, our little, which is a dryer, my lash comb, my blind glasses, and I think that's it. I think that's all we need. Okay, now let's talk. Oh, I need to have my eyelash curler too. So I'm sure, like most of us, you too are tired of talking with individuals when you tell them that you're voting for someone other than creepy Uncle Joe hair sniffer or the Oompa Loompa terror. You will get harangued and say how you are actually causing X to win, depending on who they support. And it is funny, which said that libertarians have the most powerful votes in the country. They have Schrodinger's vote. It's the only votes that count for 3 candidates at one time. Because you vote for Joe, it counts for Joe, and it counts for Biden, apparently, and it also counts for Trump, apparently. It's amazing. Everyone should be a libertarian. You have 3 votes. And, we all get this argument, and let me tell you. Oh, I'm reading the comments too. Fina, I just rock waterproof mascara. You want to know what? I tried a bunch of false lashes too, and you guys are just going to have to deal with the beauty stuff. And I did not do well with them. But seriously, just take a look at some of the stuff I use. You might like it. I want to show you something else. So I've got this other box here. Let me show you something. The new magnetic lashes, you don't have to sandwich your lashes between them because that didn't work. It didn't work. Now they have magnetic lashes that you use with a magnetic liner, and they are fantastic. Okay, so here's some magnetic lashes. Look at those beauties. And they've got 10 magnets on them, and you put them on just with eyeliner. They're fantastic. I highly recommend them. So there's 2 brands that are good. Moxie Lash, and I have another one. Oh, and this one's gorgeous. Let me pull these out. This is colored ones. See, it's got pink and black mixed in. And this is from a brand called Glamnetic. Both of them are fantastic. Now, it's not cheap, but they last forever. So, like, this set of lashes was probably $25 or $30, which sounds, it's perfectly safe. It is awesome. Everyone was complimenting me on my eyelashes at convention. They were all Moxie Lash and Glamnetic. And I've had these for like 6 months. They last forever, but it's not cheap. Particularly the magnetic liners, not cheap. Like, you will pay, I'll never lie to you, but it's worth it. For the liner, it's like $45 for this liner. But it works, and you don't need a great deal of it. You can just put enough to put on your lashes and then put on regular eyeliner for the rest of your eyes. And it also comes, if I can find it quickly, you can get it in felt tip. But it also comes in colors. I can't find the colored liner here, but I did order some. So, and I want to show you gals this too. This isn't magnetic, but check out these lashes. Tell me those aren't badass lashes. Anyway, they'll ship outside the U.S. I should get freaking promo money from these companies. I promote companies I love. But believe me, I wouldn't promote something I didn't use myself or love. There's no glue. It's magnetic liner, Fina. So you put it just like you would your eyeliner. You put it on your eyelid for these, just like liner. It's exactly like liner. Now, for the Lashify, you put the glue on your lids because it is a lash extension. So, but with Glamnetic and MoxieLash, if you go and check it out, don't pay full price. Sign up for their mailing list and get the 10% off, or search for a coupon. Never pay full price for them. And one of them always has free shipping. I think it's Glamnetic. And they come in a prettier bag. But they're both awesome. And some of them, if you don't like eyeliner, they've got the little pots of, you do with a brush. What do you call it? You know what I mean? The liner that you brush. What the hell is it called? Gel. Yeah, gel. Okay. Anyway, so we were talking about, and I'm going to curl my eyelashes while we talk. Oh, and speaking of that, check out these eyelash curlers. Now, if you are like me, let me tell you, let me get a traditional pair. This is normally, right, what we use. With those two little bars, do they work for you? They don't work for me. Those two little bars, why the hell are they there? You end up pinching the fuck out of your eyelid. Why aren't they all like this? Look, there's no bars. And look how wide it opens. Fantastic. Let me see what brand this is. I forgot. Crap, and it doesn't say on there. But you could probably do a search for like eyelash curlers with no sidebars. I don't know. This one is so sturdy. And look at the spring on that puppy. But anyway, I've always hated eyelash curlers till I found these. And they work so good. Well, okay, so back to the voting discussion. I think I'm probably the only person who does politics and beauty. It pisses me off when someone acts like they frickin' own my vote. Oh my God, I get so mad. I want to throw something. I do not understand or comprehend. I just don't have it in me. The nerve, like the absolute nerve to say that to somebody. Like you owe somebody a vote. Like, you must fall in line. You must be a good little ant or sheep. It is absolutely insane to me. And that is never what our founders intended. I've got all kinds of feelings about voting. I vote very reluctantly. I didn't used to vote. I think voting is illegitimate, but it's defensive. It's the weapon we have, and it's a somewhat peaceful weapon. A lot of people use it not for peaceful purposes, but we libertarians use it for peaceful purposes. So I do it because politics isn't going away. And, we got to fight it. And if I don't want a revolution, I don't want a bloody revolution, then I've got to find a peaceful way to do it. And not voting, to me, isn't the answer, though I don't judge anyone who chooses not to. That's just why I do as an anarchist. So even if I, barely a very reluctant voter, get all pissed off about it, I can't imagine how some of you feel who are like really into voting, like you're owed something. It's like, it's almost people who act like that. Okay, I'm going to make a weird analogy, and I got to reach over here for some. One day, you guys got to let me do a tour. If you're wondering what this little thing I'm in is, it's an old armoire that I converted into this complete beauty station. It's like everything's here. It is stuffed. It is stuffed like the butts that Sir Mix-a-Lot like. Okay. Now, what was I saying? I started talking about baby got back, and now I'm completely distracted by butts. What was the fuck I saying? Well, let me clean my eyelashes while I remember. Does anyone remember what I was saying? So with the Lashify system, you've got to, clean your lashes first. And they give you a little solution for it. Well, I can't remember, so I'll just go down another avenue here. So the founders, they intended people to vote their conscience. There is no way that the system, as flawed as it is, will work if you're only voting out of fear and not voting your conscience. It is absolutely crazy, all this fear-based voting. And oh, thank you, Mary Angelica. It's not the color I used to have because, okay, I'm cursed. I probably shouldn't tell you about all these products I love because I've just doomed them to go out of business because everything I love goes out of business. Special effects, their hair color was the best. The atomic pink was the best. I dared to say that out loud. And usually what happens when I say things out loud is the product just gets discontinued. But my curse was strong with this one. The whole company went fucking out of business. Anyway, yeah, I am bitter. I'm a bit salty about that. So I'm trying to reproduce the color. This is Pravana Magenta. It's okay. Okay, so I clean my eyelashes. So you know, to say when you vote your conscience, you're wasting your vote, that is just absolutely insane. But let's try to view this from the most charitable way towards people who say that, possibly, where they're just telling you to vote tactically. And I understand voting tactically. For instance, we use approval of voting law on the LNC, and let's say we're voting for the platform committee, and I want to be on the platform committee, and we've got all these applications, and there's a lot of people I support. If it's approval voting and I really want to be on the committee, I'm only going to vote for myself, even though it's approval voting, because you end up shooting yourself in the foot sometimes by voting for other people. Bullet vote and approval voting. I know the approval voting people hate me for saying this, but the minute people figure out bullet voting, approval voting is done. That's my opinion, and that's why I'm a ranked choice advocate. It's far more difficult to game. I actually don't think you can effectively game it. Not in a large group, at least. Maybe in a small group you can. You could definitely game approval voting in a small group. And you want to know who taught me that? Is Alicia Matson. And I thank her for it, because I used to just be all generous and vote for everyone and screw myself out of a committee seat. So that was a rabbit trail, or I just go off on these tangents. So I get so tactical voting. I get it. And you know, if somebody really, really hates Trump, they're going to say, "Oh my God, you vote for Joe. You just might as well have voted for Trump." But that is like so freaking shallow. D. Frank, I'll get into that in a moment, and you'll be proud of me for something. I'm gonna remind me. And why is that so shallow? Let's just take me as an example. If I didn't vote for Joe, I wouldn't be voting for Biden. Like, I didn't take a vote. Excuse me, I drank some soda too fast. I didn't take a vote away from Biden, because if it wasn't for the Libertarian Party, I'd be back to my old ways of not voting. I wouldn't vote. So there's, I think, a good percentage of us libertarians who are that way. So my analysis of this will be completely different than, like, say, the Greens. I don't think the Greens have the same, like, anti-government, anti-establishment mindset, where a good segment of their voters, yay, a MeWe notification, I got to figure out how to not have that come up. You guys, I'm sure, are seeing that. I don't think their voters, if they didn't vote for the Green candidate, would probably just not vote. I don't think there's that same mindset, but I could be wrong. But I just don't think there is. And with libertarians, let me hazard a guess. I'd like you guys' opinion as to whether you think I'm right. I would guess about 30% of the people who will vote for Joe, if there wasn't a libertarian candidate, wouldn't vote at all. And I'm one of them. Most likely. Though I'm probably going to say a few things here that are really just going to piss a lot of people off, but you know, that's politics. Because right now my attitude is I will challenge. Maybe I would. I don't know. I wouldn't vote anyway. But you know, I love those thought experiments. Well, I love and hate those thought experiments where someone will say to a libertarian, "Forget about the libertarian candidate. If somebody put a gun to your head, who would you vote for, Trump or Biden?" And everyone was doing this last time with Trump and Hillary. And I will say flat out, I did a bunch of interviews. If it weren't for the Libertarian candidate, I wouldn't have voted anyway. But if you put a gun to my head, I would have preferred Hillary. I had a lot of reasons for that. Now, in hindsight, I was wrong, I think. I don't know. It's hard to know how Hillary would have done. But lest anyone call me, you're a conservative, you're a Republican, chill. No, I was saying, no, definitely Hillary. And my argument for Hillary was she's the devil you know, and Trump was the devil you didn't know. And I preferred the devil you knew, even though I knew she was just corrupt as fuck. So, but this time, if somebody held a gun to my head, it would probably be Trump over Biden. Barely. And it isn't because of Biden. It's because of Kamala Harris. Biden isn't going to be president. Kamala Harris is going to be president, and she is so fucking gross. She is the worst. I thought Hillary was bad. No, bad. Why can't we, when we have our first woman president, it be somebody great? I don't care what political party they're from. I mean, I do. I would love for it to be a libertarian, but why do we have to have all these awful women candidates when there's so many decent female politicians like Tulsi Gabbard? But anyway, it's not really about Biden. It's about Kamala Harris. And believe me, I'm no fan of Trump. But I can tell you, I am pissed at the lies told. You don't have to lie about Trump to say bad shit about him. He gives you plenty of bad shit to say about him that you don't have to make shit up. So when people make shit up, it just pisses me off. And there's just so much shit being made up. Now, maybe there's a bunch of shit being made up about Biden. Educate me. Maybe I'm not seeing it. So right now, my attitude is kind of like the creators of South Park, where he said, what did they say? I hate the Republicans, but I fucking hate the Democrats. Yeah, that's right, because they're just lying. They're just lying their ass off, and they don't have to. I just did my ballot selfie yesterday, and some of you know when there was two races without a libertarian in it, I voted once for the Democrat. I voted for the Democrat for Attorney General because I think in general Democrats are better at not being draconian about laws, particularly drug laws. So I gladly voted for the Democrat. And for county commissioner, I voted for the Republican because the county commissioners spend money and Democrats suck at that and Republicans aren't great, but they're better usually. And I happen to know this particular Republican. So I ain't a fan of either. But this identity politics bullshit is going to kill our country. Though, of course, the xenophobia bullshit with Trump, too. I could talk myself out of it. I get so torn, you know. I whatever. But hearing that tax cuts are going to be repealed, no. No. And they lie. Oh, it's not. Never mind. Let me get off of those two. I'm just saying where my particular perspective is from. I wouldn't vote and if y'all think I'm wrong in anything I'm saying, change my mind, because you can tell it's not like I have a firm opinion on the grossness of them. I'm so glad. I know some people have all kinds of feelings about Joe. I don't agree. Come up and, slide into my comments and be saying how she's not a libertarian. Fine, whatever. Think what you want. I think Jo Jorgensen is fucking fantastic. I am going to vote for her with absolutely no reservations. I will not have to hold my nose or cross my fingers behind my back like I had to for the Johnson-Weld ticket. And it wasn't the Johnson portion. It was the Weld portion. Though Johnson wasn't great, okay? He was great on some things, but that whole bake the cake thing and then the burqa ban that he had to walk himself back from, but whatever. I just adore Johnson because he's adorable, so I guess I just can never think anything bad about him. Though I've replaced my political crush now with Justin Amash. Sorry, Gary. Anyway, this time with Spike and Joe, I feel so good about our ticket. I feel bad for you guys who don't. But I feel great about it. I probably should like do some of the eyelashes right now, right? So I can actually like do both. And then I'll look at some comments. So this is the Bondage Glue. Now I'm not good at this. I suck at it. So don't use me as an example. So what you do, I got a mirror over here, is you put a little bit of the glue. It's not, I don't even like calling it glue because it's not stiff at all. It's almost just like mascara. So you put a little bit of that on. And then you take your $80 wand and you decide what length lashes you want. And I already know that. I like the winged look, so I don't put the same size throughout. So you see how you grab that lash there? And you just kind of slide it on there and it sticks. Whoops, allegedly. So I told you, I'm not good at this. See? How it just stuck on there. And you press it down and you take your little wand, you go in here and you fuse it. You just hold it and you fuse it. Not good at this yet, but it actually is pretty cool. And it stays on again for days. You might have to apply a little bit more of the adhesive for, I don't like calling it glue because it's not really. Okay, I know it looks weird because I only have one on there, but I don't know if you can see. And see how it's just like right at my lash line? You can't even like, when they're all on, you kind of know something's going on with my lashes, but it doesn't look fake. Like, I don't know how to word it. Anyway, so now let me talk a minute more. Oh, but about lashes one more time. There's another home lash extension kit out there. I think it's called Moiti Lash. Oh my God, don't get it. I bought it because I thought it would be easier because I was having a hell of a time putting these on, and I still do. Moiti Lash goes on the top of your lash, but it's the same way. You put some glue on your lash, and then you put the lash on there. You don't touch your eyelid. But that shit is actually glue. It dries hard as a rock. So you've got these hard, like, they almost turns them into like plastic. They're awful. It's awful. And you have to use this special like solvent to get it off. And if you don't put enough on and you like try to take them off, or if they get caught on something, it rips your fucking lashes out. I ripped all of my lashes out. I had bald for a while. I couldn't continue. I had to let them grow, my lashes grow back. Nightmare. Nightmare. Oh my God, never again. Okay, so let's see the comments. Oh, well, Kanye. Okay, Fina and I spent some time in Hawaii, and I want to come back to visit you, girl. I had such a good time. I hope you had a good time too, but you're probably thinking to yourself, oh my God, you were a terrible house guest. Don't come back. I had a good time. I really like think back on that a lot. So we had a big discussion about Kanye. Fina and I are actually kind of Kanye fans. I'm not, I thought Kanye would have been a good candidate for us. Why? Okay, I'll explain why. And Fina can jump in if she remembers. I don't remember all of our reasons. But mostly, I was still very butthurt about Johnson Weld and the way Weld used us. And I didn't know we were going to have like such a great ticket. And generally what happens, like with Root, we've had some really shitty candidates that just use us. They're not even like libertarians. They just use us. So I'm like, if we're going to get used, if we're going to whore ourselves out, let's get paid, Let's be smart. If we're going to whore ourselves out, let's be wise about it and get some money for that ballot access or benefit when I'm using an analogy. Kanye is fucking famous. He would definitely get the word out. And I'd be like, if we were going to get used for our ballot access, we would get something out of it, at least with him. And he's an independent thinker. I know he's a little crazy too, but he breaks out of the box. If you think it's easy to be a minority and speak against, like, as Joe Biden said, you're not black if you don't vote Democrat, right? Whether you like Kanye or not, I give him a lot of credit for breaking out of the thought box, that sometimes minority communities are pushed into. And even dealing with, I know women aren't a minority, they're 50%, but there's some dynamics in being a woman that's the same way. There's certain ways that all women are supposed to feel. Like, I'm not a feminist, but I know of people who are pro-life. You can't think that. You can't be a pro-life feminist. You're not even invited to the marches. It's all that little box. So I respect him for that. And I think being around libertarians, he could actually become libertarian. And again, this is when I was still kind of butthurt. It goes against my principle to not have an actual libertarian. But if we're ever going to have not an actual libertarian, it better be somebody that we get something out of, rather than whoring ourselves out for nothing. And his wife is getting those drug people, the people who are unjustly incarcerated for drug crimes free. I mean, they're doing some good in the world. But anyway, I love me some Kanye. Maybe I got a political crush on him too. I would love to meet him. I'm not into like the way he's putting so much religion into everything, and I'm a Christian, but you don't need to be bringing religion into politics. That's kind of gross. More than kind of gross, it's gross. Okay, so I put some more of the adhesive on and got another lash. Now, if you're not talking, you can do this in like 5 minutes. Allegedly. Okay, see that one? One pass. I don't know if you can see it. And you go through with your wand and you fuse it. You just hold it on there and you fuse it. So maybe I would have voted for Kanye if there wasn't a libertarian candidate. I like Kanye. I probably would have. But I definitely wouldn't have voted for Biden or Trump. And that shit coming up with the corruption with Trump and his son, oh my God. I have no respect for anyone who thinks they're fucking noble because they're not voting for Trump. They're voting for Biden because they want to get Trump out. And they think they're noble. That dude has been handsy all over little girls. That is so gross. And then with this whole selling favors and the corruption, it's bad. And don't tell me, yeah, I know Trump's corrupt too. But the funny thing with Trump is, like, he kind of owns it. Not corruption per se, but like, he don't pretend to be something he's not. He like, what's it? He owns the gross. Maybe that's where, he's gross and he owns it. I don't know. Biden's putting on airs like he's better. He ain't no better. Kamala Harris sure ain't no better. Just, I really can't put my finger on what's really bugging me about them. But the lies, oh my God, the lies. Alrighty. We're actually got something pretty substantive to get into in a minute. But I wanted to give all the intros. So, the wasted vote thing is, I think I put the ones on the end a little bit too long, like it's winging too much. Who cares? So about 30% of us wouldn't vote anyway. So, and again, I'm guessing, but I think that's probably pretty close. So 70% of us would have voted for somebody else if there wasn't a libertarian candidate. And I would say, guessing, disagree with me if you'd like, 10% of that 70 would have voted for another third-party candidate or non-duopoly candidate. So now what? We're down to 60. Out of that 60, statistically speaking, we split evenly. Out of that 60, if there wasn't a libertarian candidate, 60%, 30% of them, on average, would have voted for Biden, and the other 30% would have voted for Trump. I know plenty of libertarians who are not voting for Joe because they're bought into the whole hysteria, and I know equally a few that are, equal numbers of people that are doing it for Trump and ones that are doing it for Biden. So I think even today, that holds true even more than normal, that we draw equally. So while the argument and the dynamics for, like, say, the Green Party, I think would be way different, for the Libertarians, it's absolute bullshit that you're stealing from somebody. Not that that's even possible. But in fact, let me tell you, and I got no shame in my game, I'm looking forward to, on election night, what states we covered the spread, because I love the tiers. The tiers are delicious. Here's my thing of tiers. We did the spread. We might have cost your candidate that state. Love it. Let me drink up those tiers. I live for that. I live to spoil elections. So, yeah. I hope we spoil a whole fucking bunch of them. But anyway. So when it comes to libertarians, I think the whole argument is BS. Just because of our ideology and how we draw pretty equally. I think I'm going to do all of these like kind of long. It might not be the look I wanted, but why not? It's kind of what I did without even realizing it. See, now when you get more on, that's when it gets tougher. But see how it's coming along? So let me... Now, as they start getting in, this is where this is genius. You see how the curve goes right over your eye. So you go like this. Gotta be careful not to catch it. And see? You fuse it like that. You gotta admit, that's a genius design. Particularly with those little rubber tips on the top. So, it's $80, but it works. And it is hefty. It's not flimsy metal. Okay, you see how that's coming? Pretty cool, huh? And if I lift up my eyelid, see how it looks like, my lash line. It's interesting. So lash extensions, in other words. Now for the greens, not that I believe in anyone owning anyone's vote or any of that bullshit anyway. I don't think I'm going to put any more on here. I think I'm just going to keep it towards the end like that because I don't have many natural lashes here, and it's hard to find something for it to grip on. So let me get out, because it's a little sticky right now. So what you do is you get out the glass, and it looks like that. It's just this clear stuff that takes all the stickiness off. Now the greens, and again, somebody who knows more about the greens, correct me if you think I'm wrong. I do think they're costing Biden votes because I do think nearly all of them, well, 80% would have voted for Biden. Maybe the other 20% would have been another third-party candidate. Still think the argument's bullshit, but it carries at least a little more reality with like the Greens or the Socialist Workers Party or like, say, even the Constitution Party. Like they would never be voting for Biden. So they definitely are, quote unquote, taking votes away from Trump. Right? Right. Next step. So I did the glass. Now you do the control wax, which just kind of lays it down. And you can also use this control wax for your eyebrows. Now, if you think things have gotten a little clumpy, you can comb these out, but you risk pulling them off. So I've got this like lash comb, so let's see. Because if they're stuck together, you can get them stuck in your comb. See how it like pulled a little there? But no, I haven't pulled any out. Okay, and they comb through pretty good. Okay. One more step before we get back to talking. This is like a little atomizer. And if you've ever gotten lash extensions at the salon, you know they do this. So you put a little moisture on here. I don't know why, but it's what you're supposed to do, and it really helps. I need to fill this back up with water. It's almost running out. So you get your lashes a little wet here. So you see I got a little dew on there. And you can either use something like this, which is pretty nifty. You plug it into USB. It's a little fan. Whoops, to dry it off. Or use this little pumpy thing. Yes, I've got all the gadgets. But now I want to pull up an article. I don't know if you guys ever read this article. I read, and we're going to go through it. And I read it in 2016, and it is so fantastic. You need to master this argument when you're dealing with people who are worried they're wasting their vote, or accusing you of wasting your vote, or, you know, voting for Trump, Biden, whoever. Oh, is this rechargeable? Oh my God, I thought I had to have it plugged in. But it's rechargeable. Ooh, that's better. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm very easily pleased, aren't I? So let me put on my glasses. I know that I got half lashes on. But now you can see the difference, see? Natural, Lashify. Hopefully you can see. And it's like no makeup, so it's like a natural look. Okay. Oh, there's been new comments and I haven't seen it. See, I'm learning this program. Sorry that I missed some of y'all's comments. So let me look at this. So sorry that I didn't see these. I was wondering why you guys stopped. Okay, so here I saw the Kanye stuff. Biden is an empty suit for Harris. Absolutely. No, Daniel, I'm going to look forward to your tears. I hope we cost Trump Colorado. Here's what I think about that. Thank you. Dealt with that. Gone for chocolate. I hope the chocolate is delicious. Yeah, the Kim's criminal justice activism is fantastic. Let's see here. Yes, Maria, you can sleep with Lashify. You absolutely can sleep with them. Let me show you something else. They stay. You can. Allegedly, they can stay on for a week. I haven't been able to do that yet, but let me find what you need to sleep. Okay, so right before you go to sleep, you put this thing on. It's called, I don't know if you could see, it's called Night Bond. And it's just I haven't used this in a while. So it's just another thing. You coat it on, and after you coat it on, you take your wand again, seal it, and you're good to go. And you probably should, throughout the day, just do this a few times. So, yeah. I mean, I really it took, for me, there was a huge learning curve with Lashify. At first, I was about to throw it out. Okay. So let's go to that article, and then I'll do my other eyes, but I want to get going with this article. So if you're wondering why I look here and then here, I've got my computer here. So I want to try to figure out, let me see. So screen sharing. Okay, here we go. So you should be seeing, I should be picture in picture. Okay, this is at fee.org, article titled How Not to Waste Your Vote, a Mathematical Analysis. If you have not read this article, you need to read it. It is so good. And the URL, you could do a search for it, but the URL is so easy. It's fee.org/articles/how to not waste your vote, a mathematical analysis, just with dashes in between each of the words. Okay. Genius. So, I know you can read it yourself, but I'm going to kind of read it, kind of talk about it. And they take it back. This author, so it's Stefan or Stephen, we'll just say, Wheezy. So, hey, if you guys remember Good Times, Wheezy. Oh, boy. With young Janet Jackson was in that. Anyway, Wheezy takes it back to the beginning to define what a wasted vote is. I want to see if I can stick my comments on top here. Okay, yes. And D. Frank was telling us about his chocolate. Okay. And let me move this over a little bit. For me, you don't see it moving, but I do. Okay. So, definition of a wasted vote. Before I scroll down, what would you guys think a wasted vote is? To me, before I read this article, I only thought of one definition, and that is, not that I agreed with the definition, I'm trying to be objective for the people who make this argument. It would be votes cast for a candidate that didn't win or had no chance of winning, maybe. Usually, it would be a third-party candidate, right? But you guys don't go and read it now and get ahead of me, but read it later for sure. So that's what I would think. I'm going to give you a second. I'd love to hear what your definition of a wasted vote would be. And don't cheat and look at the article, or if you have already, don't answer. But if you don't answer in a minute, I'll keep going. But this gives me an excuse to put another eyelash on. Now, when I first decided I was going to do some of these get ready with me politics stuff, I was like, God, no, libertarians are almost all guys. They're not going to like this. But there are plenty of women. But something I learned with my husband. Now, Wayne, if you guys don't know Wayne is like a dude's dude, okay? He's like, dirt bike, fixes shit, hunts, he's a dude's dude. But he is so fascinated by all the feminine rituals. Like, he's just interested because it's foreign, right? So, he likes to pick apart the engineering of it, right? So he finds all this stuff I do just like watching National Geographic. It's like observing another species to him. And he thanks God, I think, every day that he's not a woman when he sees all the shit we have to do. But he loves watching it and learning about it. So I got that one on. So let's fuse it. And yes, you can come at it from the other direction, as you see here with my fuse. I want to show y'all another neat gadget too. So I got a little glue over here. Got a little clumpy. Okay. This is another neat gadget. Women probably already know this, but maybe you don't. I went through my life and didn't know about this. But then again, I didn't wear makeup for most of my life. Those of you who know my story know that I came from a pretty abusive marriage. My ex is a cop. Nice. And it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because, of course, I wouldn't have been with somebody if they were all terrible. When he was wonderful, he was wonderful. But very controlling. And I was a fundamentalist Christian at the time where you believed, the husband could tell the wife everything that they could do. And you had to have permission for everything, like literally permission. And I wasn't allowed to wear makeup because he couldn't believe that makeup is for yourself and the only reason you'd want to wear makeup is if you were out whoring for another guy. That was his opinion. So I had to learn all this now, okay? But this thing, if you haven't seen these, if you've got bad eyes, it's like hard to do your eyes when you can't put on your glasses. So check this out. You put it on and you got glasses on one. Okay, Fina, it's been nice talking with you. And then when you're done with that eye, you flip it over. Isn't that badass? You got to admit, that's badass. Okay. And there's another kind too. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah, I do. Or there's this kind, which has two lenses. So you put them on, but they flip down. So you could flip one or flip the other, or sometimes when you need to, whatever. Awesome, right? Awesome. You got to admit, it's awesome. Okay, back to the article. You guys didn't give me a definition of a wasted vote, so we'll just move on. You probably had thought the same thing I did. All right, so here on this article, I think my little picture in picture's in the way. Let me move my big head up here. Okay, that should help you guys better. So it's not covering the screen. So two types of votes, wasted votes. Votes for candidates who didn't win. I think we all knew that definition. But here's the one I didn't think about. Excess votes cast for a winning candidate. And basically what he means is, like, once somebody is the first past the post, once they have enough mathematically to win, if they got more than that, those extra votes, those in excess of what they needed to win, are wasted. Those people didn't have to vote, or they could have voted for somebody else and maybe given them a boost. So each person that is giving you the accusation of you wasting your vote, their vote is probably wasted too. And one vote, unless you're talking about local races where one vote can make a difference, one vote's not going to make a freaking difference in the presidential election. Enough of, and what the person will say to you, right, of course, my one vote won't make a difference, but if you add them all up, all these 1, they make a difference. And I'm like, exactly, that's why I'm voting for Joe. Because if enough people do it, it will make a difference. Hello? Okay, so they go on in the article and say most arguments only mention the first kind, votes cast for candidates who didn't win. Absolutely. I never hear anyone talk about excess votes. But they are both very, very important. And it goes to show it's not just third-party supporters that are, quote-unquote, wasting their vote. And then they go to explain the first past the post, FPTP, which sounds like an internet protocol. In the article to explain how our system works. But I love this little breakout quote here. The value of your vote is what you give it. Should you spend it on a candidate you don't believe in? No, you shouldn't. And you definitely shouldn't spend it on a candidate that, think of whatever. If you are not voting for somebody, if you're just voting against somebody, so let's say you're voting for Trump because you're voting against Biden, just think of everything bad you can about Trump, and it'll only take you a second, and say, that's what you're voting for. Even though you're using it to vote against, and you're okay with that, you can freaking sleep at night. And then vice versa. If someone's voting for Biden just to be an anti-Trump, and I know a lot of leftists that don't freaking like Biden, well, you just sold your freaking soul if you are voting for Mr. Handsy Child Grabber because you don't like Trump. Don't tell me you're noble. Don't tell me that's moral. Save me the preaching, honey. Not today, Satan. Okay, continuing. All right, and then it says how first past the post favors a two-party system. Agreed. That's why I'm absolutely convinced that the LP needs to spend more time advocating for voting reform. We are spinning our wheels and just burning out activists until we get voting reform. Almost everything else we work on is ineffectual up to a point. Not really, because we can influence policy, but still, we'll get so much more bang for our buck if we all decided a priority in every single state and nationwide would be voting reform. Oh, D. Frank, I wanted to talk. This brings up your issue that you talked about earlier about write ins. I absolutely agree with you on that. And if that's, some people go, oh, that's really a wasted vote. No, it isn't. If that's who you believe in, you go for it. But the problem is half the time the write ins aren't even counted or reported. And that's a crime. That is an absolute fucking crime. But I'm going to, I hope you're here, D. Frank, because I'm going to tell you some things I've been doing and I'll be doing a lot more of. There's two things that are just outrageous and that are holding the LP back. And until we deal with both of them, I really think a lot of the other things we're doing is wasted effort. Okay, first is voting reform. And the other, ding, 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 D. Frank, your ears are about to ring, is ballot censorship. The average person in this country has no idea about ballot censorship. None. I didn't before I was in the LP. For those of you who, remember your pre-LP time, did you know? I most certainly didn't, and it's shocking when you learn it. And I think other people would be shocked and agitate for changes if they knew the absolute rigged game. It's a base duopoly is the right word. That's not just said as something to be cute. It's a racket. It's like organized fucking crime. People tend to think, oh, you tell your little kid, oh, one day you could be president. Yeah. Not unless you grease the right palms or kiss the right asses, and not if you don't want to be a Democrat or a Republican. They don't know the lock. It's banana republic style stuff. Really, it is. It's just crazy that this goes on in America. And the average person has no idea about that. They think they actually have choices. They don't realize that their betters, their overlords, are deciding what choices they can have. Absolutely nutso. And if you haven't yet been sufficiently outraged by this, you haven't thought about it enough. And I know D. Frank's always very outraged by it, and he thinks the LNC doesn't pay enough attention or whatever. We do. I certainly do. I just don't talk about it as much as D. Frank does, because that's just not my style. I don't criticize him for doing that because I agree that the issue is important. But don't think because I don't talk about it that much that it's not on my mind. I talk about it an awful lot when I'm around non-libertarians. I bring it up a lot because I actually think that's a fantastic outreach tool. Maybe not necessarily to convert people to libertarianism, but to convert them to the fact that our system needs to change. Hey, I'm almost done with these eyelashes. I should do them with you guys more often because I did a better job, but it looks kind of weird there, like too long. I need to put one more on there that's shorter. So we'll pull that out in a minute. Let's go back to this article. Maria, I don't know what to do with that. Sometimes it's just a matter of finding the right words, and maybe not this advice could be completely off base. Let me tell you, because I'm coming from a position of privilege in that I'm in Colorado, and we have the easiest ballot access laws in the country. So I don't have to do that whole signature thing. I'm a line holder in Colorado. I'm running for state house. You want to know how I did it? I just signed my name on one piece of paper, and that was it. I didn't have to do another thing. That's why in Colorado we feel so strongly about a full ballot, even if there's line holders, because it's just so easy. We should realize how blessed we are and always have a libertarian on every line. But anyway, I would, so the advice I'm going to give you that, again, might be off base is don't make it so much about this, what you're doing, like the signatures and things like that, push it outside of your own state. Like push the perspective even bigger than just the effort you're doing or the situation in your local municipality or whatever you're doing it for, and press upon them that this is going on everywhere. It's multiplied and multiplied. And you want to know what shocks people? This is what I say that actually brings people up. I say, we've been a political party we've been the third largest political party for 50 years. We've run presidential candidates for all of those 50 years. Our first presidential ticket got an Electoral College vote. No one can say that we're not legitimate or established. Yet, I don't know the exact figure, but and it does vary. But over the course of every 4 years, because there's off-year elections too, so let's just take it in 4-year chunks, we have to spend upwards of $500,000 every 4 years just to get on the ballot. Do you think some of these smaller voices can do that? And you don't think that your overlords aren't keeping choices from you? If a well-established 50-year-old political party has to do that, if the third largest has to do that, imagine what it's like for the fifth largest. And when I argue that way and kind of move it out of the LP and out of just my local area, but again, it's because I'm in Colorado, so take it with a grain of salt. I find that people do, they start to get it. Also, I share the stories about when we busted ass to make signature requirements, and then the duopoly turns around and makes them harder. I really find outrageous ballot access cases and learn them. If you don't, there's a magazine, I say magazine loosely, it's like a newsletter, Ballot Access News. I'm not even sure if he still puts out a paper copy, but I know he does put it out online. I think the subscription's like $15 a year. It's by Richard Winger. Get that Ballot Access News. That will arm you with such great, great information. Okay, I need to find a short lash. 1 second here. That's the wrong box. Because I need to add one more lash here. So let me look in this box. This one looks like it might be good. What's a B? No, it's a 10. I don't want an A10. 10 is too short. What's this one? Is this a 14? Here's a 12, right? I'm going to do a 14. Okay, just got out some more lashes here. Okay, so let's continue on here. And then they go on to explain the Electoral College, which is, we don't think about it a lot, but it's interesting. We don't really even have, at least in the presidential race, just a first past the post. We have got a bunch of mini first past the post and then the big first past the post. Because in each state, you have like a mini national election to get those Electoral College votes. It's kind of interesting to think about it. All right. And then they explain what happens. Don't need to get that. But they say these distinctions are important because they change the math. And the distinction they're talking about is states hold a winner-take-all, first-past-the-post election for their electoral votes. Electoral votes are then counted, and then the winner of the national election must have 270 electoral votes. Okay. If no candidate gets that, the House of Representatives chooses a president. Has that happened? I think it's twice. It's been a long, long time. Any of you who know, put it in chat. All righty. So I'm going to read this exactly because I said this earlier, but, Wheezy here words it better than me. The general concept that is proposed by many is that you must always vote for a Republican or a Democrat because you must stop the worst candidate from winning. In a sense, you are voting a negative vote against someone rather than for a candidate of your choice. But this depends on the scenario of the vote. Let's look at some examples. Okay. Now here's where it's going to get a little tricky. And again, the breakout quote is great. People voting out of fear of the worst candidate is a self-perpetuating cycle. Amen to that, right? Right. Okay, so the example they use, and I'm not good with math, so I'm probably going to struggle understanding all this. I intuitively get what he's saying. I haven't read this article in 4 years, by the way, so I'm reading it again with you guys. Bush versus Gore 2000. I remember that when I was in Florida. I should have brought it. I'll bring it one time. I do have a copy of the sample ballot. We had the hanging chads. And let me tell you, Florida is so bizarre. I love Florida. Man, Florida, just like our quirkiness. I love that about Florida. There were some things about Florida I didn't love. That's why I'm in Colorado. But the people and the culture I loved. And we were like, yes, we ruined the election. Way to go. That was funny. We're like, go Florida. Okay. So, following the extremely close 2000 U.S. presidential election, some supporters of Al Gore believe the one reason he lost the election to Republican George Bush is because 2.7% of the electorate voted for Ralph Nader. And that's actually a better argument than for a libertarian, as I said before. And exit polls indicated that more of these voters, 45%, would have preferred Gore to Bush. I'm surprised it's that low. 27% of Green Party people. But Ralph Nader wasn't your typical Green Party person. He wasn't like Jill Stein. I don't think, and I know she's not running this time, but I don't think Jill Stein voters would have broken down 45%, 27%. The argument in this case is even more pronounced because the election was ultimately decided on the basis of the election results in Florida. Go Florida! Which Bush prevailed over Gore by a margin of only 537 votes. That's interesting. Which was far exceeded by the number of votes that Nader received, which was 97,488. At first, this may look like a clear example of the need to vote for a major party. However, they say, let's break this down mathematically. In every single state election, Bush or Gore won. There were millions of mathematically wasted votes in this election of both types. For instance, in California, Gore won, and I'm just going to round these numbers up, by 1,300,000 votes. So mathematically speaking, there were over 1 million wasted votes for Gore in this state alone because none of those excess votes helped Gore since he already mathematically won the state. The California votes didn't matter in Florida. In fact, the votes in Florida have much more relevance than any other state. So, the conclusion. Sometimes a vote for a major party winner is wasted anyway. Sometimes everything will come down to one state. However, there's no way to predict in advance which votes will be this important. If the parties knew that Florida would have been the deal breaker, they would have acted differently, but we don't know the future. We do know that battleground states are generally more important, but it's hard to know exactly which state might matter. Okay. So that leads us into our next example. So basically, to summarize what he said, everything came down to Florida, and pretty much everywhere else didn't matter, particularly the people who voted in excess of the amount needed for their particular candidate, Gore or Bush, to win. So now Clinton versus Trump 2016. All right. Said, do some math about California and the 2016 election. Okay, this is before the election, so they're just going by polls. So, particular poll had Hillary ahead by 22.2%. The registered voters in California add up to 17.7 million. Not all of them will vote, but using the 2012 presidential election as a predictor, 13.2 million people voted. So, according to current predictions at that time, 52% of that 13 million would vote for Clinton. But Clinton only needs 31% to beat Trump. So the other excess 21% in excess for Clinton will be wasted. So that means approximately 3 million votes for Clinton in California were wasted now that we're past that. I said, not only is this a mathematical model, we have several reasons to believe this. And goes on to say, California's history of being heavily Democratic. Polls usually swing within a single-digit margin of error. I don't know if that's still true. 21%, though, is still a large margin of leeway. Okay. So no matter what, there are millions of wasted votes for Clinton in California. And he said, now let's throw Jill Stein into the math. So as part of the Green Party, she's left of Hillary. So votes for Jill would be, quote unquote, taken from Clinton's pool. I would agree with that, though he says it's not always a true assumption. Okay. Right now, Jill was polling at 4%, but he said, let's give her 5%. If you take away 5% from Hillary's 22.2, that still leaves a huge margin, still millions of votes. So the takeaway is you can safely vote for Jill Stein in California without fear of changing the state election results. Therefore, it will not affect the national vote. Since we have the Electoral College, your votes will have no influence beyond the state. And that is true. So those who prefer Jill Stein can, with a clear conscience, vote for her, since it'll make no difference mathematically. Later, we'll look at the ethics of voting as it relates to this math. Okay. So, goes on to talk about the mathematical significance of a single vote. And this gets into heavy math. I want to just try to get to the crux, but I don't want to read through all of this. So, using big-brained people with big-brained models, they figured out a way to calculate a voting power. So the minimum voting power multiplier would be 1, and then there is a highest one. Why is that? That's because, statistically speaking, with Electoral College votes, and this is why some people want the national vote, the national compact, that states in California are worth less than, say, states votes in Montana, allegedly. All right. So they calculate the power of your vote being with the minimum, at least the minimum power, with a voting power of 1 over 126 million, they give you this long ass, 0.000, whatever. That's the weight of your vote. And then you can multiply it by the highest potential, depending upon where you live. They multiply it by that. So the highest your vote could be worth is this other number, 0.0000317%. So that's how powerful your vote is if you're in the most heavily weighted state. Alrighty. So here's the fallacies. Fallacy number 1, treating single voters as one block. A false assumption that people make about voting, and I need to plug in my computer. Come over here, my precious. Okay. False assumption that people make about voting is treating a single vote as a block. He said, use our current example, and then they're using Hillary and Trump, but we could just as easily use Biden and Trump as an example. Some insist that if you don't vote for Hillary, you're helping Trump to be elected, or the reverse. They claim if you vote for Gary Johnson, this is what happens. And at that time, Gary Johnson was polling at 7%, which was less than the difference between Clinton at 39% and Trump at 40%. Therefore, you must vote for Clinton to make up that difference. I don't know what Joe is polling at as compared to the other two. Since 2016, I do not trust polls at all. They screwed the pooch that year. So, he says there's several problems with this proposal. It does not take each state into consideration, because again, it matters. And it also assumes all Gary Johnson supporters have Clinton as their second choice. So it treats your single vote as the entire 7% of the difference. So, using California as an example, where Clinton had a huge margin, a vote for Gary Johnson would not help Trump, and it also wouldn't hurt Hillary, even if the entire 7% voted for Johnson. Anyone who says it's your duty to vote negative in that scenario does not know the math of that state. Of course, that might be different in other states. Like there was someone in my chat here earlier, I'm sorry, Christensen, I believe it was, saying because Colorado can be swing-ish, because we're a purple state, that I should vote for Trump, which I'm not. So when people look at that 7% margin and tell you you must vote a certain way, they are assuming that you will somehow influence the entire 7%. But you're just one voter, and your voting power is very tiny. You cannot be responsible for a candidate winning or losing. In theory, it's mathematically possible for a single vote to decide an election, but it's astronomically unlikely, especially if you live in a non-battleground state. Okay. Fallacy number 2, third-party votes have no value. So let's look at the breakout quote. If enough people vote their conscience and vote for what they believe in, things can change. People have known this at times. I'm going to try to finish up the lash here. The Bernie supporters knew that. They would have gone to the stocks for him. And some of them are sitting out elections because of him. I mean, it was a phenomenon. I'm not a fan, but for those people, they were. I kind of got some clumping going on here, so this might get a little wonky wonk. The Ron Paul revolution had the same phenomena going on. Okay, so just talking about the lashes again. So we've got to pull out one out of this. So let me put on my glasses. So what you got to do is you take your little wand, you grab a lash, and you just pull it out. Okay. We're going to try to put this on. I got to shut up a little bit here because, again, as it gets closer to the middle here, it gets harder to do. Yeah, I don't really like the way that one's sitting. There we go. No. See, I always mess it up in the inner corners. Let me pull that off. I'll have to clean that one before I can use it again. So let's pull off another one. That's my dog barking. All right, we pulled off another one. Sorry about this, but I do want to finish these lashes, and some of the ladies are interested in it. Okay, that's much better. All right, I'm going to, squish them in a minute, but let's talk here. So on the surface, it appears to be true that third-party votes have no value since a third-party candidate for president has never won an election. Is that true? Wasn't the Republican Party, when it won its first election, technically a third party? I mean, that's what I'd been told. I can't say I know a lot about that period of history, but somebody tell me. At some point, it doesn't have to be live. Somebody who's watching this later. Okay, those are fused. All right. But it is mathematically impossible for a third party to win. But there are other gains for voting for a third party, and that's what I try to tell people. Winning is not the only benefit, and we've got to emphasize that point, or we are just going to burn out people. So here are the benefits, even for president, not just in local races. It makes a political statement to the majority parties, and that makes the difference. Those states or those races in which the Libertarian Party candidate covered the spread, The major parties pay attention to that because they want those votes next time. So he goes on to say it can help change platforms to include third-party elements, and it provides recognition as a viable alternative. And third-party candidates have won lower offices. That is true. And they're talking about forcing a race to the House, which we have tried to do a lot, and I think it's still a good strategy. Okay. In most scenarios given by the wasted vote crowd, all of the votes that are considered are the ones from the current voting electorate. But there are 50 million eligible voters that aren't registered, and 20 million of them didn't vote. 20 million of those registered and eligible, well, that's kind of redundant, registered, because obviously they're eligible if they're registered, didn't vote in 2012. And I think that number has only gone up. I'm putting the glass on right now to get rid of the stickiness. Okay, I think I'm going to need to put another lash here to even out, see how these go in a little more than this side. Yeah, I'm going to have to do that. Alrighty. So, if those voters decided to vote, that can make a difference. So the question is it easier to get a non-voter to choose a majority candidate or a third-party voter? If those non-voters could be encouraged to register, they could change the election. Okay. Certainly the founders never envisioned an endless cycle, and it is an endless cycle. Every freaking election, this election is just too important. We'll talk third party next time comes. This election is just too important. We'll talk, and it goes on, and the circle goes on and on. Okay. The idea by our founders was for free and open elections where the people's voice could be heard. It was simple. The candidate who best represented your interests earned your vote. Your vote is an expression of yourself and your beliefs. If no one has the courage to vote outside the two main parties, it'll never be broken. But each vote outside of the two main parties emboldens more people to vote outside of the two main parties. The true value of a vote is in the people. Alrighty. So, I like the conclusory statement here. If you are already a staunch supporter of a major party, then you should vote that way. This isn't against the major parties at all, but rather against the concept that votes somehow belong to only Democrats or Republicans. Bzz, not true. Votes belong to the voter. There has never been a more important time to vote your conscience, and I would say every election that is true. And I would say every day that's true. There's never a more important time to live your conscience in everything that you do. All right, let's see if we can finish up this puppy here, where I got to even out this side. This is where I mess up. And it's these inner ones for me that come off first, only because I just don't have many eyelashes on in the inner there. I've got very sparse eyelashes to begin with. And I wanted to try that Latisse, to grow better eyelashes. But here's what they tell you, but they don't, because they have to, it's a side effect. But they don't put this front and center, and most of you probably didn't know this. I need to put on my cheek glasses. Whoa, my microphone fell. With Latisse, if you have blue or green eyes, and I've got green eyes, Latisse can turn your eyes brown. Or at least partially or darker. And if you like your light eyes, I'm not going to risk it. Because I like my green eyes. I like them a lot. And I don't want to risk turning them brown. Not that there's anything wrong with brown, but that's just not me. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't put that front and center. or it can give you like brown spots, and it's permanent. It's not reversible. So no Latisse for me. If they ever come out with a formula that doesn't do that, yeah, try it. Who doesn't want nicer natural lashes? Just fusing, fusing, fusing. Okay. So you saw the before, and now here's the after. I think they look pretty good. They look like salon extensions up to a point. I mean, not as well put on, but again, it took me a long time to get to this point. And if you look underneath, okay, you can see here I got a little uneven. See how that one's a little bit lower on my waterline? That's what I always do there towards the corner, but I didn't do it on this one. I did the best job on this one than I've ever done. This one's a tiny bit wonky. Okay. And you can stack these, though I don't think I'd want to do that. That would feel very heavy. Okay, that's all I had for you today. It was a long time of chatting, but I hope it was helpful. And I enjoyed spending this time with you. Let me see if I can figure out how to end this stream. Learning this program. Oh, it was an hour and a half. Well, that's about typical for me. All right. Bye-bye. Mi guapas de libertad. Lashes.